complex, and she's currently a digital editor at Billboard. Her writing focuses on a range of genres, including dancehall, reggae, R&B, and hip-hop, though she has a penchant for 90s and early millennia pop nostalgia. There we go. Through her writing, Bianca has made it her charge to spotlight rising Black artists and aims to amplify the voices of underrepresented women executives across the music industry. So thank you so much for joining us, Bianca. Next up is Mincieli, longtime engineer, mixer, collaborator, and album project manager for Alicia Keys, Grammy winner, and has also worked with Mariah Carey and Jay-Z, amongst others. That's a pretty impressive resume. Anne is the owner of Jungle City Studios, one of New York's most elegant and best equipped recording facilities. She is a music industry leader whose aim is to restore Manhattan to its former prestige as one of the world's top recording destinations. And in 2018, Anne founded She Is the Music alongside Alicia Keys, Jordy Gerson, and Sam Kirby as a means of empowering women across the industry. So I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about it. Ebonie Smith is a New York City-based music producer, singer-songwriter, and audio engineer. She holds a master's degree in music technology from New York University and currently works as an audio engineer and producer for Atlantic Records, where she's produced for artists like Janelle Monáe and Kelly Clarkson. Outside of the studio, she is a founder and chief executive officer of Gender Amplified Incorporated, an organization that celebrates and supports women in music production. Shakari Trakgirl Boles is a versatile music producer, songwriter, and entrepreneur who collaborated with artists across genres, including Andra Day, Janae Aiko, who I'm obsessed with, oh, she's so good, and Luke James. She balances her love of music with a passion for seeking gender equality and has channeled that passion into a variety of endeavors. She's a member of the Recording Academy's Diversity and Inclusion Task Force and Spotify's EQL board. In 2018, she founded the 7%, which is an event series that discusses tangible solutions to music gender's equality gap. Most recently, Trakgirl founded Pay Us Today, Please, a lifestyle and apparel brand that promotes fair pay for industry creatives and producers. So thanks for joining us. And last but certainly not least, Jenifer Mallory is the Executive Vice President and General Manager for Columbia Records. She is based in New York and oversees the label's marketing, publicity, promotion, digital sales, content, licensing, and brand partnership departments. You don't have a lot to do today. Prior to her general manager position, Jenifer was Executive Vice President of International Marketing for Sony Music Entertainment, playing a key role in the global strategic development of established and new talent across Columbia, Epic, and RCA. Jenifer has been profiled in Billboard's 40 Under 40 and Women in Music issues and has already largely impacted Columbia in 2019 after quarterbacking the launch of significant campaigns, including Hozier, Solange, Vampire Weekend, Tyler the Creator, and many, many more. So please give a round of applause for our panelists.
For you guys to be here, and I mean, this panel is really special to me because I am a young rising woman in this industry, so I definitely look up to you guys and your work and what you're doing. I think it's really great. But of course, we're always discussing equal opportunities in the workplace and the music industry. I think we definitely still have a long ways to go when it comes to making sure women have more chances to thrive in this industry. So, just in your perspective, what are some ways that as women can use our influence to create more opportunities? Yeah.
I'll start because everyone seems like they're shy. No, I'm kidding. I think some ways it's basically we need to start creating more opportunities for girls. I think having that visibility, maybe to be able to see us in the studio more so. There's a lot of female producers out there. It's just literally just getting us in the door, getting us on those projects. But, you know, also collaborating with each other more so, like even collaborating with the men, like you just have to start getting into the door more.
I would always say, in terms of what we can personally do as producers and engineers who are already in the studios, I think it's important to look at the younger generation and to try to be some sort of influence for them, because they have to start. And music production is a very difficult craft. And it's not something you can just kind of wake up doing. Like there are other crafts in music where you can just kind of wake up and be able to sing, or wake up and be able to rap. Music production is not like that. Studio work is not like that. So the 10,000 hours are extremely important. So if you're established, it makes sense to go grab a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old and create a safe space for them to learn under you. So mentorship and apprenticeship is very critical. Having 1 or 2 interns that don't look like you or do look like you, but are younger and trying to come up. I think that's very important in terms of making sure that we're building young people who can be prepared to take the reins when our time is up.
I think as it relates to just the executive side of that too, She's the Music we're trying to shine a light on women. Obviously young kids know women on stage, right, performing, but like what does it look like? There's a lot of other things you can do in the industry, be it publicity or branding or sync or all the things that we're talking about in this room, and just making sure that young girls see that there's a lot more that go into it. And it's not just about the performance, but everything behind that too, and just trying to shine a light on that the more we can.
And I think that for an intern coming into my studio, like there's a lot to learn. You can learn how to be a songwriter, you can learn how to be an engineer, you can learn how to be a producer, you can learn how to be a programmer. You learn all of the protocols involving high-end artists, and you build a relationship. So I try to help younger female women that are in their bedroom and they think that like, okay, I have this software, but get out of your bedroom, get into the studio, don't be scared to connect the dots. Sometimes I realize they don't know necessarily how to get to the next step and how to connect the dots, and that's what we're here for. That's why we came up with She Is the Music, and that's why you came up with Gender Amplified and 7%, is like help these folks connect the dots and to realistically give them a glimpse of what happens behind the scenes. It's a lot of early mornings and late nights. It's I always say this because it looks so glamorous to some folks, but it's a lot of unglamorous work, and you have to want to really do this stuff, and it's a lot of learning. But it's very rewarding at the same time, and it's a fun industry, and it can be an incredible process. That's why with She Is the Music, we kind of like do these networking events to give them the opportunity to meet label folks maybe that, and we go to these events in the community, and that's all some of these up and coming kids are asking for, an opportunity to sit with A&Rs and to sit with some artists, and we can provide that, if we connect the dots for a few people and we're paying it forward, so.
I think one of the things we said in LA, if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Yep.
So that's sort of like,
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, you guys have established yourself, in this industry, for so many years, and I'm sure you've seen the tides turn so often. But are there any pockets in this industry where you think can be improved when it comes to inclusivity?
All the pockets.
Yeah, for
Perfect
sure.
answer.
And we realize over time it's going to take years. Stacy Smith is on our She's the Music board, and it's going to take years to change the numbers, but that's why we're here now, so we can affect change, and we can, get more women, behind the scenes doing this stuff, and all of these roles. Little by little, those numbers will change, each year.
I definitely see a shift though, for sure. Like it's definitely increased. I'm seeing a lot more girls in the studio. I'm seeing a lot more women engineers. Like literally, we did like a whole week with Andrew Day. It was just all girls. It's myself, female engineer, writer was a woman, but we were like really, really good. Like it was a really good session. But it's just refreshing to be able to just do that. And I think we need to have more of that.
And the guys want to support it too. I hear a lot of producers like looking, male producers looking for female engineers, and I think it's just, now they're aware. I think, education is important, and they've seen the numbers and they're aware of it, and they're trying to, affect change, which is really important.
actually going to ask about, you know, the men in this industry because, you know, of course, as women, we are making steps, you know, make change. But do you have any advice for, you know, the men, like your male peers, for them to also be advocates for this as well?
I think, you know, as far as my mentors, many of them have been guys. When it came to Atlantic Records and me getting that job, it was two men that took a chance on an unknown 20-something, and they were willing to take a chance. I think it's really that simple. Be willing to take a chance on somebody who doesn't look like you, doesn't remind guys of who they were when they were 12 or 13 or 14, but taking a chance on a young woman who has promise to bring her under his wing and to learn more and to grow in the industry. Taking those chances, kind of being willing to step out on faith and call the producer that maybe you've never worked with before, or the engineer that maybe you've never worked with before, to do a project that's high profile. Taking chances with it.
Yep, and not being scared to like get your resume out there. Call people and so know someone. There's so many opportunities where even producers have their own production studios. You know, you learn different things from different individuals. I'm still a student of the game today, and I think it's important just to know that you have to get out there and network, and there's many different ways to do that, you know, from social media to sending your resume the old-fashioned way to, I know a person last week that went to Quad Studios and knocked on the door and went to the 10th floor and gave their resume. It's all part of how you know, not being, you know, having the confidence to go out there and you know, network, you know.
That's the most important thing, obviously. Just relationships, building relationships. I think all of us would attest to that. I mean, obviously it's the work that you do, but it's also just building your relationships and your collaborations and making sure that, you know, to the extent that you can, you know, pulling other women into the meeting, making sure they're at the table, validating what they're saying when they're there. It's up to all of us to, what was the tagline for today? It was leading them, dragging them up. It was great, whatever it was. But it's that idea, right? So it's like you have the power to get the people in the room and get them at the table. So make sure that you're doing that when you have the power to do so as a woman in leadership.
Well, you know, throughout my journey though, I think I want to help girls actually, it's like more so a personal internal thing, like build that confidence to actually be able to, you know, move into the room and know how to run a session. But, you know, when I talk to other girls, it's like changing their mindset, just have that, you know, I can do this. And it's really mostly a personal internal thing. I think mental health is extremely important, and just building that girl up to be prepared for that career in that session is definitely like a goal.
Great. Actually, just going off of that, Trakgirl, I know, you know, you've known for working with a lot of, you know, hip hop and R&B artists, but, you know, for women who want to get into the production field, who may not want to be, you know, pigeonholed into, oh, she only does urban music, you know, how would you say for them to kind of break out of that stereotypical mold?
I like to surround myself with people who are in different genres. So I know I like to be with actual musicians and players and just soak their wisdom in, and people can play different genres, and just have to listen too, you know, and just have that mindset to want to do different things, I think. Because for me, I didn't want to be in one box. So I knew, like, I was on this path of just being with musicians, learn how to record musicians. It's completely different from, I guess, what, beat making or whatever. I don't know that word anyway. But just getting more rooms and different genres.
Great. And Ebony, I also wanted to ask you as well, because last year you actually wrote a column for us on Billboard.com just saying that, you know, there's not a lot of women producers getting the credit that they need in this industry. But since you wrote that column last year, have you seen any improvement of women getting more recognition when it comes to production?
I was very excited to see Emily Lazar win a Grammy this year for her work as a mastering engineer. Nova Wave also took a Grammy home for their work on Everything as well, by Beyonce and Jay-Z. So we're definitely seeing women behind the scenes. Is the conversation changing in the public? Yes, I think there's interest in talking about women in production, which is great, and talking about women in engineering. Are they getting more calls? I don't know. You know, because ultimately the only thing that's gonna move the needle when it comes to women in production is their credit list. They have to be working on the records. Are they getting the calls? I don't know. I mean, I work in the belly of a label. I still see the same 10 guys coming through. And you know, and that's just kind of what it is. I think the industry also has to open doors. Now, in terms of what we can do as producers, we have to professionalize ourselves. I think, you know, and you taught me about studio etiquette, right? We have to professionalize ourselves. We have to be ready to be in these rooms. We have to put our 10,000 hours in. We have to promote ourselves on social media. We have to make sure our resumes are what they need to be. We have to get our education. Yes. Once we've done all that, there still has to be somebody on the other side of the door that's willing to open it if we knock.
Right.
And I think that as far as, is that happening more? There's more conversation, sure. There's more Instagram posts. Billboard just put out an article about, you know, New York mayor is pumping $500,000 into women musicians in New York City. That's great. All those efforts are great, but there's still a gatekeeper issue when it comes to the music business. There's still a gatekeeper issue. And that's a heart and soul thing. People's hearts and minds have to come around to the idea of seeing a woman in that seat and trusting that she can do that job. And the more that Trakgirl, myself, and the more that we do that, we prove that we can. And we can shine a light on our abilities, but there has to be kind of a give and take when it comes to that. We can only do so much individually. There are systemic and infrastructure-based issues within our industry that have to be addressed.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, and I think, you know, labels that they could also help kind of break those walls and help these women get through. So, Jenifer, I mean, you guys can also answer as well, but how do you think label executives could help these female creatives, you know, get more shine?
Well, again, back to She's the Music. I mean, off the back of the efforts that Ann and the co-founders, you know, started, we pulled all our A&Rs into a room and said, you know, there's this database that we're constantly trying to get people into, women into. So we pulled all our A&Rs together, and of which we have, a few female, not nearly as many males, but making sure that all the producers and engineers and everyone that we knew that, you know, we could spread the word in the industry and sort of remind our A&Rs and our artists to use the database, and we just have to continue to get the word out. And I can tell you that at Columbia, I think the same is true at RCA. Both Peter Edge and Ron Perry have been incredibly helpful and mandating that we all sort of make sure that we continue to build this base, and we continue to make sure that we look at all the potential, you know, available women for the same jobs that we're hiring men for. So I think it starts from the ground up, it starts from the top down. We just all kind of have to be continuing to talk and make sure that we build up, you know, the creative side of it, because the numbers are frightening.
And even Rob Stringer, I do a lot of work obviously with Peter and Rob, and he's very inspired. He's very hardcore figuring out how he can get involved and hire more females.
Absolutely.
And you know, he was excited for She Is the Music and the big global push that everyone is doing, and he has a huge global initiative he's doing himself.
Yep.
With all the territories building content bases and studios, you know, worldwide in all their territories, and I'm working on that project with him. But you know, he's very excited to make sure that women are hired in these locations. So the work we're doing now, in 3 years from now, you're gonna see those changes. We can't get lost in the numbers, because the numbers, I know my friend, she's a female engineer, she's doing incredible things. She's like, but my credits are gonna be out in a year from now, because I worked the last year, you know, on all these songs. They might not make the light, an album comes out a year from now. So we just have to keep making sure we keep pushing, and that's what we're doing, and we'll see those credits, and we'll see the numbers drift. They go up a few percent each year, then we're doing our job, you know. But you know, the process has started, and we're off to a really good start, you know. And again, I think the A&Rs, it's a comfort factor, it's a creative factor too. The artists can't, you know, when it comes to creativity, you can't. When you have artistic vision and creativity, you know, sometimes it is the best songs win. You know, Alicia worked on 200 songs for this new record. So like, she's had an incredible amount of female she's a female producer herself. Like, she co-produces everything, but the 12 or best 15 songs are gonna make the record, right? Like, you know, but at least we gave those women along the way incredible opportunity, and that's all you can, you know, hope for, you know, and hope that the A&Rs can do the same, you know, consider, you know, some of the great female, up-and-coming female producers and engineers that are out there. And it'll inspire those women to make more tracks and make more incredible music, and you're gonna see the numbers change little by little.
I would also like to say that this is not a 5-year project. It didn't take 5 years for these numbers to become what they are. I mean, we're dealing with a lot of issues in society that affect why industries process things the way they do and perpetuate the ills of the world in the way that they can. And we're talking about the total of human history that contributes to why an industry may have disparate issues or numbers. I like to think, especially when it comes to Gender Amplified, I like to think of it as a 50-year project.
Right.
I want to be old and 90, you know,
Still trying,
you know, looking at, because for me it's about the music. It's not about necessarily even the industry, it's about the quality of the music and the generations that we have an opportunity to inspire through education, through the efforts that we're beginning to build now. So I think it's gonna take time, and I'm fine with that. I'm in it. You know, what I love is the music, and so any way that I can to contribute to the betterment of the industry that provides music to the world and supplies music to the world, which will be around, because it's been around for 100+ years, so it'll continue to be around for the next 100 years, is what I'm kind of focused on in terms of advocacy.
And I'm glad that, like, honestly, you know, when you look at the light of a negative situation of the comment that happened a year and a half ago, which, you know, was Step Up, it brought light to all of this industry worldwide problem we had, where, like, if that comment wasn't made, would we be so conscious about? We wouldn't. So in a way, like, in retrospect, if I look back at it, it wasn't actually a bad thing. It was actually a good thing, you know, and it forced us to take a look at evaluate what's happening and you know, affect change. And we all, across all of the labels, from Julie to Rob Stringer, everyone's making a huge effort here, so.
I mean, and you ladies are also, you know, making steps, you know, to create change as well. I know Trakgirl, you started your 7% series, so what was the driving force behind creating that?
You know, when I was coming up, I don't think I really had like mentorship programs. For me, you know, I just didn't really see, there was Missy Elliott, but like I never really had that one-on-one engagement like to come up. So I just really wanted to create a resource for other just female producers to have that one-on-one engagement, have that education, have that relationship, and just help them, because a lot of them just, you know, need that pathway and help. So I'm just really passionate about helping people in general. So we're working on a lot of like workshops with different organizations and doing, you know, production classes and stuff like that. And you know, I just want to help, man. That's just how I am as a person. So yeah, we're working on it.
Cool. And you also brought up Alicia Keys, and I think it's so great that you guys have, you know, such a super strong friendship. And I think in this industry, we definitely need more sisterhood like that.
Right.
So I feel like, you know, just me personally, sometimes it's hard to find who to turn to when I need advice, or just the right person to talk to for certain situations. But can you kind of speak to, you know, the value of having a sisterhood in this industry?
Yeah, I think me and Alicia grew up together in this industry. I was at Quad, and I met her at Quad in 1997. She had a publishing deal since she's 13 years old, so she was writing a lot of the songs back in the day for some of the bigger artists. Like her and Beyonce were on the back burner because there were so many artists in the early 90s that were, you know, you have these two young kids that are just going on so many field trips, you know, like, so.
That's crazy.
You know, it's a great story though. They worked their way up the ranks just like the rest of us. And Alicia, she, you know, her first album, as you know, like it went through 3 labels before she put it out. So I started working with her in 1997, and we literally went from like basements to baseball fields together, because like we would track vocals in an apartment with sometimes, you know, like a comforter in a closet as the booth. And then one day I was at Yankee Stadium, and her and Jay-Z were performing, and I was on the field mixing while they did their performance during game 2, and I was like, wow, you know, like it was a surreal moment for a second where we said, you know, we've done everything together, and I think we both have an understanding of every aspect of the industry really well, whether it's producing or arranging or the sonic palette, down to the digital strategies where we could chop it up on how do we convert our social media followers to customers? Do album sales really matter, or does relevance matter? We could sit and digest it all, and we study it together, regardless of what all the managers say and the big digital strategists say. We could close the door and really take all that information and break it down and say, you know what, this is what's best. Because we've been together for so long, and I think nobody understands who she is better than I do. Nobody understands who her fans are. I've been through all the twists and turns of technology. I've been around since '97, and you know, we really grew in the industry together. You know, one piece of gear by one piece of gear each year, and like now I own Jungle, and she moved her studio from Long Island into the same space in Jungle. So we have this huge, big music community, and you know, where all these artists come in and create, and she has a playground of her own. But yeah, I think the sisterhood is really important, and it's organic. You know, it's not like, you know, I can give her input on the side and give her advice, and you give her sometimes the confidence she needs, sometimes she needs to give me the confidence that I need, sometimes we really get into it. You know, like, hey, this decision might not be the right decision. Hey, you should host the Grammys. Everyone else is saying, don't host the Grammys. No, host the Grammys. That's the world's biggest platform, and you could do something unique. And when you get the challenge, then you go, okay, what am I going to do unique? Okay, I want to play 2 pianos, and it goes down as one of the best performances. But it's that type of advice that you can lend each other away from all the experts, where you can sit in a room and just break the stuff down and say, you know, we're overthinking this. Let's do this. Let's take a chance, you know. Let's go. And I think that's the balance for us, you know, and obviously we grew in the industry together year by year, so it's been really rewarding. She's a female producer. She produces a very old school style, but takes it on with a new twist. You know, she'll shut a click off in the middle of, like, running Pro Tools. She'll shut a click off from the bridge on out, and musicians are playing without a click because she feels like, you know, the emotion is lost sometimes when you're just playing on a click. So she does all these incredible things where she mixes all the worlds together and genres together and styles of how to produce together. So it's really rewarding for me as an engineer.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. And Jenifer, your story is inspiring as well. I think it's amazing just how you've leveled up in your career, and now you're executive VP at Columbia. But can you just speak to some of the hardships that you face, you know, while going through your trajectory? Because I feel like at record labels, it's usually fronted by straight white males, so it's nice to see a woman in a position like yourself.
Well, thank you. Honestly, all I can say is that just put yourself in rooms like these as often as you can, and the work that you're doing here and the executive coaching and the composure that you're working on, it matters. And I think for me, it was just a lot of hard work and a lot of sleepless nights and passion and drive, and I definitely sat at the table with mostly white men for the last decade, but it is starting to change a lot. Rob, as you say, is a huge part of that. But I think, you know, I think at the end of the day, I think it's just about passion and drive and good work and not giving up. I wouldn't say the barriers exist the way they used to. I think that's fair. And in terms, you know, I think there's a lot of women in this room that work at Sony that, you know, Hannah's on my team over there. And, you know, across every department, I mean, there's the head of branding, the head of sync, the head of production. We have a radio head. We have a head of urban music, Felicia Fant, new to the team. Our head of publicity is somewhere in this room, Kim Harris. So there's a lot of females now that are running the halls at Columbia and at Sony in general. And it's great. And I think we all just need to continue to get each other at the table, in the room, validate what each other are saying, and just do good work, and it'll pay off.
And explain the umbrellas. So under Sony is Epic,
Yeah,
Columbia, Arista, and RCA.
Exactly
so.
right. So at Sony, the Sony's the umbrella label, and then there's RCA Records, Steph's there. There's Columbia Records, Hannah's there, Kim's there. There's Sylvia Rohn is the chairman of Epic Records, another badass female in the industry, who's a total mentor of mine as well. And it's just about making those connections. I mean, Julie Swidler is another one. She's our general counsel at Sony, longtime, purveyor of female. I mean, she's on the Sheet of Music committee as well. And so we link arms and we make sure that we show up in force and we make sure that all of our young voices are heard and continue to try to pave a better path for those behind.
Speaking of the path, definitely you're going to be, leaving your mark for other women to kind of follow your lead. But are there any rising women executives that you're seeing who could be the leaders of this upcoming generation?
Absolutely. Hannah's one of them. Steph is one of them.
In the back right there.
There we go. Yeah. There's a lot. It's exciting. There's a lot of women. I mean, I'm inspired every day. Let's just leave it at that. I mean, I'm inspired every day, and I will say also, I'm a new mom. I have a 7-month-old baby at home, which is another. I got this job, and it was a lot all at once. I literally got the job right when I had the kid, and Sony's been incredible in helping me balance both, and it's really hard to do, but I have the support I need to do that, and I'm still able to sort of run my home life and run my work life, and it's important that I do that for all the women around me and behind me. And there's a lot of women, young mothers at Columbia as well now, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. I think that's a really important message because it is an all-in thing working in this industry. It's like all day, all night, and you gotta really try to kind of carve out other parts for your life. But I figured it out, and I'm here, so it's possible.
Okay, awesome. And Ebony, you clearly mentioned your gender amplified nonprofit. But can you give a little bit of background of just why you started it and just like the main purpose behind it?
Right, so in 2016, in 2006, I was very close to dropping out of college. I was at Barnard College at Columbia University, and I discovered making beats, and that's all I wanted to do. And if I couldn't make beats for school, then I wanted to drop out of school. And my thesis advisor, I was going into my senior year, my thesis advisor says, what are you gonna write your thesis on? I was like, I don't know, I'm about to drop out of school. Like, can I write it on music production? Can I write it on making beats? Because that's pretty much all I'm gonna do. And I figured out an angle. I was like, maybe I can write this on women who produce music. So I started along that path of finding all these women. I Googled, it was 2006, slightly pre-YouTube. So I had to Google to find these women, and I came across a couple of really interesting blogs. I started contacting these blogs. It's like, hey, can you hook me up with this girl that you profile on the blog who makes beats for this person? And so that's how I started finding these women. And I go on these long, extended trips all over New York City to do this ethnography that I had to turn in for my undergraduate thesis. And I would interview these women, and they were so cool, and they became friends and homies, and just really were balancing so many things. That were mothers and music producers and engineers working in studios, and they had such interesting stories to tell. And also I was able to find a through line. I was able to find what was affecting all of them. And there was this issue of not being taken seriously, which always kind of came up over and over again. And so I said, all these women are great. None of them know each other. Maybe I can bring them together. So I went back to that same senior thesis advisor. I was like, hey, can we do like an event on campus where I bring all these women? They kind of live on paper right now. I would like for them to all be together. Meanwhile, I built a recording studio in my dorm room, and I'm producing the students on campus and making beats. So all these things are kind of converging at once for me. And so I kind of used my education as a means to springboard that. We did the conference in 2007, Gender Amplified Women in Music Technology and Hip Hop, and all these women descended upon the campus, and It was great. We had panels, a lot like this one. We had a couple documentary screenings, and Spinderella came, and Trisha Rose came and did a keynote, and it was really amazing because it was academic, but it was industry, but it was community, grassroots organizing, and so I was like, okay, there's something here. I don't know what it is, but the energy on campus is pretty phenomenal, and I kind of want to live in this. Like, I want to be born again in this energy. I knew I stumbled onto something. Fast forward, I go to grad school, I go to NYU. I still see some of the same issues in my graduate school program in music production when it comes to gender issues and disparities and everything. I'm like, maybe we should bring it here. So we do another event at NYU, and I'm constantly doing these events, constantly working toward a career in music production. And I realized that those things seem to be supporting each other. And so I ended up going back to Barnard in 2013. I was like, hey, can we re-up? Can we do a festival this time? Same idea, bringing women together, music producers, engineers. The energy was the same again. I was like, you know what? 3 times a charm. This thing should be a thing, for real, And an advisor came to me, and he said, look, you're doing some incredible work by organizing these women in an educational setting, doing this kind of grassroots work. You should have a business entity. And so I started the business entity in 2015. By that time, I was already at Atlantic. And it just kind of went from there. So how did I start the organization? By not trying to start an organization. I was just, doing the work, following my truth, walking in my little glorious truth, just being who I was and following my heart. And it really turned into a full-out mission statement over time. Just kind of little by little as I was professionalizing myself, but also networking myself, using these women to network myself in the industry that I wanted so deeply and dearly to be a part of. And today, everything's really kind of come together because now Atlantic and Warner Music Group, they support Gender Amplified. They're one of our financial sponsors. So is Spotify. So I've been really able to bring this mission, this ministry. I really like to say all the time, Gender Amplified is not a brand, it's a ministry. I've tried to bring this ministry to the industry that is ailing and really needs something of this, and She's the Music and the 7%, to try to help it grow into the greatest industry that it can be. And so now I consider Gender Amplified as a kind of a service organization for the music business, but also still primarily focusing on our constituency, which is the women that we serve and we support, who are amazing. And well, hopefully you'll see that in the video that we'll show.
Yeah, it's incredible. And of course, just in this industry, there's so many things that we have to tackle, but I think one of the biggest things is definitely equal pay. And I know Trakgirl, you started your Pay Us Today brand. So, of course, this is such a big issue that we always have to deal with, but personally for you, why was it so important for you to start this?
Yeah, so I would always hear horror stories from my producer and songwriter friends about not receiving their credit, getting paid maybe 2 years after an album drops or something crazy. And it's like, I don't know, like producers were like short-ended. And I've never understood that because it's like for the core of the records, it's like, why are you guys treating us this way? So I just started Pay Us Today basically to help, my friends as far as like financial literacy. I think is extremely important in the industry. And just learning how to maneuver and, build a career. And I'm really passionate about getting outside of the studio and showing different ways of how you can get paid through different lanes, whether it's doing brand campaigns, actual performances, just so much stuff. I have this mentality of a producer should be treated like an artist. So we're just on the path to hopefully, partner with other organizations and do like career building things and financial literacy through the industry. So it's a journey.
And I was actually reading this Annenberg Initiative report, and there was a status that said that 80% of women notice that they've experienced some type of discomfort in the studio, and they don't really feel like they belong there. But this is for any of you ladies. What steps are you taking to ensure that women feel protected when they're in these creative spaces?
For jungle, I think it's important for all the studios to have a standard, which I know, Ebony, you have protocols at Atlantic. There's things we know that wouldn't happen, right? not every studio has the same regulations and rules. So you go into some studios and like, there's not an assistant engineer, there's not somebody there making notes of who showed up, what time did the session start. I have an iPad and a work order, and the assistant's job is to log the names of the people in the session, what time did they actually show up, and what's happening in the session. If there's an assistant assigned to the session, then the session is somewhat like, not monitored, but at least there's someone there representing the studio and the label and the artist to make sure nothing, nothing is happening. There needs to be an education process. Sometimes the guys kid around and they don't realize that maybe women are taking that joke the wrong way. And so the guys need to be educated on studio etiquette, I believe, sometimes, some of the younger guys, because it's a harmless thing, but it's not, because it's being, viewed from a girl's perspective as, hey, you're flirting, or hey, you're making me uncomfortable. And, it's that type of stuff that needs to be taught, some old school etiquette, like even down to when I first started out, you never walked in the control room. If you saw tape playing back, because I use tape, I've been doing this since 1990, since I'm 16. You never walked in a control room if tape was playing. You waited for tape to stop, and then you walked in. You see the door, like I'll be tracking vocals sometimes even, and the door is just, people are in and out, and in and out, and it's like, I'm trying to focus, the artist's trying to focus, and all these people are coming in and out. But for the writers, it's that come into the sessions, we've interviewed a lot of writers, it's trying to balance it out to make it a comfortable environment, and a lot of the studios really need to step up. And sometimes you see a studio being booked because it's $50 cheaper or $100 cheaper, but it's that experience that's the difference. So are you going for the cheaper studio, but you're putting your artist in you're in an environment that's not good for the artist, not good for the writers, not good for the producer. Go to a studio that has somewhat of a name and a background, and you're not in someone's basement, and you're sending 3 writers there, and you're in so-and-so's production studio. So it's some of those rules, there's some unwritten rules that I think we're trying to figure out how to come up with a studio standard right now with some basic rules, like for a lot of the studios to abide by, which would be incredible for them to have. Have an assistant on the session, make notes. My work order goes with the invoice to all the labels, so they can see what happened. So-and-so showed up 8 hours late, so the label knows, okay, you started at 2 o'clock, but you really showed up at 9. Now I understand why there's 5 hours overtime, it's just a way, it's really important so everyone can feel safe. There's someone in the room that represents the studio, is a representative there that's, not partial to any crew. I think that's one of the important ways to make a lot of the writers not feel so unsafe, So.
I would also have to say, I think the balancing, having your women artists not be the only women in the room, I think it makes a lot of the difference. Just me being in Atlantic, I can't tell you how many times women artists have come in and said, I'm so glad you're here. For whatever reason, just seeing me at the helm, seeing me in the producer's seat, it helps them feel more comfortable, because they've gone to LA and they've done a stint in Miami and they never saw another woman in the studio, and they're just kind of tired. Not that anything negative happened in the studio, they just don't ever have any representation of their own vantage point in the spaces where they're supposed to deliver and create and be professional. So I think it just helps to think about that. I think on the part of folks who are setting up the sessions, whether it's the publisher, the A&R, or whomever, I think just being cognizant of, whether or not you're having your 16-year-old female budding star in the studio with 10 guys all the time. Maybe that gender dynamic is not the best and not the most productive either.
It would be interesting to see, maybe we create more creative safe spaces. That's something I'm trying to research more, is actually creating a safe space, maybe woman-based, woman-focused, woman-owned creative spaces. Because that statistic is super high. It affects a woman's capability to actually create. If you feel that barrier, feel unsafe, how how can you really create freely? So it's a lot of things to tackle in that topic to see. I'll be curious to see what happens in the future.
Great. I mean, just also on the label front, Jenifer, you could probably attest to this more, but have you, I mean, I'm sure you have, but just using your experience to help fellow women just kind of, you know, have their voices heard at labels and just to make them feel more comfortable on, you know, that front, you know, just outside the studio.
Hopefully. I think that I try to create safe space for women. I certainly feel like I'm a good role model. You know, like I think that I don't know. It's better to ask someone that works at Columbia, but I think so. I mean, I think we're trying to create safe space and just the thing I keep saying over and over, just get more women in the room, get more people at the table, and just continue to validate one another, and just, you know, that's how you're gonna kind of move it all forward.
Great. And I have another question for you. I mean, you've seen just the way that the studio has changed and how people, you know, go in and out of it, but what do you think is going to be just like the future of the music industry? Do you think maybe streaming is going to be taking more of an effect, or technology is going to really, you know, just take over?
Yeah, I think the ground is always moving, right? But it's the folks that can understand how it moves. Yeah, you know, you have to figure out how to convert your social media followers into customers, how to convert the people that once bought your CDs into streamers, and what streaming, you have to study your analytics, you know, and obviously Sony has an incredible portal that we dive into all the time to understand our territories. We might need to provide CDs still in China because physical sales, vinyl is big in Europe, you know, so studying that stuff is really incredible. I think you can curate your own custom experience per territory, which is incredible. I think technology is amazing. I'm in the middle of doing a remix component for Tidal. There's no rules at the end of the day. I see kids I'm teaching at Berkeley next week, and they're not going in there anymore saying, hey, I want to learn drums. They're going in there saying, hey, I want to learn Ableton, and hey, I want to learn this DJ software, and that's all part of production, and it's all how the industry, you know, twists and turns, and I think it's an incredible thing, you know. But yeah, I think we're diving really deep into streaming. I think that we don't need to get caught up in how many album sales we sold per week. It's like there's so many other ways to generate revenue streams and to be relevant and to build your stock up. Content is king these days, you know, right? Like, you know, it's no more radio and streaming are just as important, and two different types of songs you might drive those two components in two different ways, because a song that's really rigid for radio might not be great for streaming, where there's a song that's incredible for streaming and you have incredible video content for it. So there's no rules at the end of the day. We just have to think very forward and understand this stuff. Like, it's okay, we didn't sell 5 million records in the first week. That's an old mentality, right? Look at your long-term numbers, and in 6 months from now, let's see what we're doing across all of our territories and how relevant our brand is, and study where our fans are. Well, our fans love Empire, so we study all of this stuff to put ourselves in I hate to use the word brand, so Alicia will use the word essence, but it's really important to understand, you know, the landscape and understand how important music is to all these different areas of, you know, life. And with technology, there's no boundaries these days. Like, years ago, you put a record out and you toured and you had merch. Now it's like you can do anything and everything, you know. So it's really incredible, and I think we're one of the artists that are a hybrid of figuring it all out. We want to have our album out in Urban Outfitters with some incredible merch, but we're still servicing our CDs because we still have a huge fan base that want to buy CDs still. So we look at all the numbers, which powers us to use the technology and figure out all the different ways we can be part of it.
You know, just still, you know, going off of technology, you know, just as a writer, every time, you know, I interview artists and producers, and I ask them, you know, how do you collaborate with so-and-so? The first thing that they say is Instagram. Like I DM'd this person, and you know, we just linked up, and I feel like that's kind of like the trend that's happening right now. But I just wanted to get like your perspective on, you know, just how people are finding producers and A&Rs and just making collaborations, you know, all through social media.
It's the biggest platform. I mean, websites are dead. Like, you don't, like honestly, Facebook and Instagram is the biggest way to connect. Sometimes people have my number and they're texting me on Instagram. I'm like, why are you DMing me on Instagram? But it goes to show you the power of like how vital Instagram plays a role in the music industry, you know. I meet a lot of people on Instagram, people I would have never probably met before, you know, and I travel far and wide. It's the greatest, you know, source of promotion. And the flip side of it is, we always say this too, right? It sometimes could be the land of fake believe, you know. There's like this, you know, it's like you see this person, he's this great videographer, and then when you get in there, you're like, shit, he had all this stuff on his Instagram, and now he can't focus his camera. It's like, okay, we have so it's both, but I think it's an incredibly powerful tool, you know, and to know that Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp are all like owned by the same company. It's just really amazing. I know you guys must have your.
For me, don't get too caught up in social media though, where it's like you're focused on other people's careers, not focused on what you're doing. Because you know, there's girls who I remember getting a DM from a girl, and she was just like, "Why aren't you greater than you are now?" or something like that. And I was like, well, you know, I don't really focus on, you know, the outside noise. I really just want to focus on my music, and you know what I'm saying? So you can't be on social media like that. It's just, I wish I was doing what she's doing, or you have that mentality of, oh, why am I not here, or why am I lacking in this area? How do you appreciate what you do have? How do you appreciate what you're doing in the present? So just use social media wisely, basically.
I think it creates a false competitiveness too.
It doesn't have to be competitive.
You know, like people are looking at their followers, they're looking at, you know, you can see it, like why, you know, they don't understand your story or how hard it took you to get to each place. They're judging you too quickly without really, and that happens a lot. That's all clickbait to me.
Yeah.
You're just there. That stuff is planning for you to click on it, where you're not even understanding what it actually took to get 1 or 2 songs placed. Maybe you worked on 20 songs, and you got 2. Like people don't understand the process, and they have the ability to connect with someone like Trakgirl on social media without understanding really how.
But I'm friendly though. I don't.
Yeah, no, but no, it's just.
But I just told her just focus on the craft first was like the positive thing I can ever say, and you know, all the other stuff will follow. Literally, it will follow.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I've learned so much from, you know, just hearing your stories, and I'm sure you guys did as well. So definitely appreciate you